Hi, and welcome to the Swan Effect Mums Coffee and Chat podcast. This week I have Jem, and Jem is going to be talking to us about pregnancy after baby loss. Hi, Jem, you okay?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. So me and Jem came across each other. I don't even know how long we've known each other on Instagram now. It's been a while.
It's been a little while. It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, it has been a while. So Jem's name on Instagram is 3 dogs and a baby. And I can't remember what month it was that you put it on there on Instagram that you were expecting again. And the first thing I did is said, well, you're going to have to rethink that name now.
Yeah.
So congratulations on your upcoming baby.
Thank
so when's
you.
the baby due?
Baby's due 1st of September.
Ah. Oh, that's a tricky one, that, isn't it? Because if they're born before, they're going to be in this academic year. If they're born after, they're either going to be the youngest of the year or the eldest of the year,
or the eldest, yeah.
Ooh. And what about your first one? Was she early or?
So Scarlett was born at the end of July, and she was due the beginning of August, so she was about a week or so early. So I think this baby will be an August baby.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Do you know what? You never know, do you? We all predict it at the time, and it never ever goes the way we want it to. So, okay, mention a bit about your daughter. So I'll start with the questions. Where do you live and who do you live with?
So we live in Ellesmere Port, just outside of Chester. I live with my husband, Alan, and our little girl, Scarlett, who is nearly 2.
Oh, lovely. Do you know what? My granddad was from Ellesmere Port and his family home was there. Yeah, and his sister, she never married. So she ended up living in the family home. And I can't, don't ask me where it was. I can't remember because I was very young. We used to go there a lot, and she'd give us salmon and vinegar sandwiches and Battenburn cakes until, and there was along where the estate she lived, there was a huge park with a dome, climbing dome. I always remember that.
Yeah.
Going there, loved it.
That's Whitby Park. That's our local park.
There we go. See, it's a small world. I used to love it. I used to spend all my holidays there all the time. So, as I said, congratulations about the pregnancy. How many weeks are you? If people are trying to figure out,
30 weeks now.
Wow, this is it now.
Yeah.
This is when the waddling really starts, and
This week the waddling has started. I can't just get up out of a chair now. I have to pull myself out.
Do you know what? You try your best not to waddle because you're really self-conscious of it. You just can't physically not waddle. It's just impossible. Honestly, I used to say to Phil, it feels like I've got like a 10-pin bowling ball in my lower stomach, and I just waddle to keep it going. So this bit now, was this a planned pregnancy? And did you have any concerns about having a baby during a global pandemic at all?
So it was a planned pregnancy. We started trying for a baby when Scarlett was 6 months old, and we fell pregnant quite quickly, but unfortunately had a miscarriage when we were about 6 weeks along.
Oh.
We'd previously had a miscarriage before Scarlett was born, which was a miscarriage.
What is a miscarriage then, if people don't know?
A miscarriage is when your body doesn't tell you that you have lost the baby. So you still carry on with all your pregnancy symptoms.
Oh, wow.
Your bump carries on growing. You still have your cravings. You still have your morning sickness. You still have all of your pregnancy symptoms, but unfortunately, the baby's heart stopped beating or the baby hasn't developed enough. So we found out with our first pregnancy at the 12-week scan.
Oh,
and then we had Scarlett after that. And then our third pregnancy was a spontaneous miscarriage. So the more, what people sort of understand miscarriages more to be.
Okay.
So at around 6 weeks pregnant, I started bleeding, and then that just completed by itself. A couple of months later, we then had found out we were expecting again. But at this point, we were right in the middle of lockdown. We were right at the point where partners couldn't go to scans or anything like that.
Yeah.
And because of previous losses, we decided to go for a private scan at, I think it was about 9 weeks. just to sort of reassure us that everything was okay. I didn't want to go to a 12-week scan by myself and find out, you know, that there was no heartbeat.
And with a private scan at the time, because I never had one, but could your partner go to a private scan?
Your partner could, yeah.
Wow.
So
okay.
we found somewhere that would allow us to for Alan to come as well, which I'm so grateful for, because at that scan we found out that there was no heartbeat and that we'd lost that baby as well. So that was then, we had to, unfortunately, I had to have surgery for that miscarriage. But again, Alan wasn't allowed with me. So we had to go through that alone. And then after that, it took another, probably, I would say 5 months before we fell pregnant with this baby.
Wow. I think all of that's just awful. And I think, and I'm not saying that having a partner there makes it easier, but sometimes it's just knowing, having that person there next to you, isn't it? It still doesn't stop what's happened. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't take away your pain. It's just having that. And also, I've said this so many times. Yes, we're pregnant. Yes, we're excited and holding babies, but it's the dads that are excited as well. You know,
absolutely. So they miss out on so much by not being able to go to the scans.
Yeah.
And at that time during lockdown, whilst I had to have the surgery alone, was you could go to restaurants with your partners. You could go shopping with your partners. There were shops open and all sorts, but they couldn't come with you.
No.
For
this really
like that.
nerve-wracking thing. I mean, it must have been hard. For me, I've never luckily never experienced miscarriages, but for some reason, when you decide you want to get pregnant, and I'm sure a lot of people can appreciate this, when you decide you want to get pregnant, you're so fixated on doing it. Every month you bleed, you cry, you're like, no, and you go, okay, next month.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, I've missed a few days. Oh, maybe I'm pregnant. And you take the test and you see that line. And I said to my partner, that is the only time that you are 100% relaxed and happy and like really, really excited.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, because you go, yeah, I'm pregnant. Yes, I did it. And then I don't know, I joined a baby app thing where you can join forums. So I don't know, June 2018 babies or October 2020 babies. And as the time went on, women were like, look, guys, I'm going to say bye now. I've just had my 12-week scan, or I've just started bleeding. And it gave me so much anxiety. And my partner said to me, get off it. Because I just couldn't. You can't tell it. Well, you can. Of course, you can tell people you're pregnant straight away if you wanted to. But this whole tradition is don't tell anybody. And it is exactly because what's happened to you. And I know my partner didn't want me telling anybody until I was 12 weeks, because that's the fear, is going to that 12-week scan and the worst news possible happening. And I think it's nerve-wracking at the best of times. So for yourself, I can imagine it being 10 times worse as that, not having your partner as well. I never understood it. I never understood why the partners couldn't come.
No.
I just didn't understand it.
No.
So I think that was August time you're talking about, is it? In the summer?
It was July. July. Yeah. So even now, I had to do this dating scan by myself, but we'd had 2 private scans previously.
Right.
Again, because of that fear of having to go through that alone. And still, that fear is still there, because the minute you leave the scanning room, you immediately think, oh, well, the heart could have stopped now.
Yeah.
It's
always
it's there, literally that precise minute is fine. But after that, the anxiety comes back straight away.
Of course it does.
So I did the dating scan by myself, but luckily Alan was allowed to come to the 20-week scan.
That's great.
So at least he's seen.
Yeah.
He's been for one.
So the 12-week scan, is it at that point where you think, oh, I can relax now, do you think?
No.
No?
I don't think, like you said about any anxiety in pregnancy, it's always there.
Yeah.
But I think pregnancy after loss, I don't think that ever goes away. I think your first pregnancy is lovely.
Yeah.
But once you've had a loss, you never get over that fear. it becomes a lot easier to deal with when you start feeling regular movements of the baby.
Yeah, when you can feel them. Yeah.
Yeah, because then you know that they're still
It's
there.
reassuring, isn't it? Reassuring.
Yeah.
I tell you what I did, Jem. I'm sure my sister won't mind me saying this, but my sister lost her little boy, Ethan. It'll be 18 years this November, stillborn. And I went to go and see my nephew, at 21 years of age. It was possibly the most horrific thing I've ever had to do in my life. And, we still talk about him, and that's it. He's still a part of the family. However, it was, like I said, so fast forward 15 years and I'm pregnant. I'm the first one then out of the four of us to get pregnant after that. And I don't know why, it was just always in the back of my mind, that, I could get to the full term, and it was like, and this anxiety just kicked in so much. But with, like you said, with Fion, I felt her moving all the time, and it just relaxed me so much. With Ronnie, I had, I can't really call it now. Isn't it funny how your brain stops remembering where your
was it an anterior placenta? Yeah,
that's it. Thank you. Yeah. So I didn't feel Ronnie at all.
Not
and
at
I
all.
tell you what, it's awful. So not only could Phil not see the scans, he then couldn't see my belly moving or feel a kicking or anything like that, or me. So there's no reassurance. I bought and I don't recommend this. A lot of the medical professionals say not to, but I did. Was a Doppler, when you can hear. Honestly, I was obsessed with that constantly. Yeah. It just, like you said, it never goes away, does it? Ever?
No.
You just got to do what you got to do to make yourself less stressed throughout the whole thing and try and enjoy it.
Like you say, you don't have to experience that, your own baby loss.
No.
But to experience somebody close to you.
Very close, yeah.
It's 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage.
Yeah.
So that is a huge amount of people that, who you see every day. You can guarantee one of them has lost a baby and probably just doesn't discuss it.
Do you know what, Jem? There is at least 2 people I know that have told me, but have not told anyone else, that they lost a baby.
I know.
And I just thought, why don't go through that on your own? But
it's because of differently. It's the whole 12-week scan, isn't it? That's what they say. Oh, you don't say anything unless the worst happens. But then it feels like you did something wrong, or like that's how people feel. Like, hard to explain.
Did I pick up a box that was too heavy? Did I run too quickly when I ran out across the road?
Yeah.
Which is not, it's so silly, because women are doing Olympics when they're pregnant. All these, they go climbing, you see them surfing, you see them carrying their babies, whatever,
Absolutely.
There's no explanation for it at all.
There isn't. So it's one of those things where people say, if you don't discuss it beforehand, well, discuss it if you want to.
Yeah,
there shouldn't be this. Yeah, there shouldn't be this whole. I can't think of the word, but there shouldn't be this whole thing that you don't talk about it before, because the people that you should tell that you're pregnant are the people that you need to be there for you if
anything goes wrong. Yeah, absolutely. So did you tell anybody after Scarlett now, the first time after Scarlett, did you tell anyone you were pregnant straight away?
So in our first pregnancy, we told people when I was about 6 or 7 weeks, and obviously we then lost that pregnancy. When we were pregnant with Scarlett, we told a few people from about 8 weeks. On my third pregnancy, we were already going into the start of lockdown, so not many people knew.
Yeah, I had that. I had the privilege of that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only people that knew were the people that were very close to us that, like I say, needed to know.
Yeah.
And then with so that was the third pregnancy. Same with the fourth pregnancy, we were already well into lockdown then. So again, not many people knew. However, I still told people after we lost the baby.
Did you? That's my next question was going to be, did you do that?
Yeah. So I didn't really after the previous miscarriage, but with the next miscarriage, then I did. And then with this pregnancy, I was 17 weeks when we officially announced it.
Bloody hell, Jem. You must have been really showing by then, though. And people must
we were well into lockdown again.
Oh, okay, fair enough. You'd be really lucky to be able to hide at that time.
Yeah. So it was only when restrictions were starting to ease not so long ago that we thought, I can't hide this any longer.
So can I ask a question? These aren't on my list now. This is what I meant. I'm talking to a friend in a coffee shop. This is what it's like. I just freestyle because I get nosy. I want to know as well, because I've had it a few times now. So when you did tell people, I was pregnant, I'm not pregnant anymore, and this is the story, how did people react to that?
Lots of different reactions.
How would you rather they reacted? What is the best way for someone like me to reply to a story like that? How can we help women that have been in that situation?
So I think if somebody tells you that they've lost a baby, they probably want to talk about it.
Right.
So the best thing you can say, in all honesty, if anyone ever tells you it, is only like, I'm sorry that's happened. You know, it's a really rubbish time. There is no other way to say, you know, there's lots of things not to say.
Yeah.
Which lots of people did say, and people don't mean to cause offence. I know people don't mean to cause offence, but when you're hurting, some things are just
I feel like I might know what these comments are. So would one be, for example, oh, well, at least you've got one, so at least you know you can keep trying.
Yeah.
I don't think that helps anyone at all.
No.
It's true. It is true. But you don't need it put in your face at that time.
No. Some people said, at least you know you can get pregnant.
Yeah.
Some people, like especially with my first miscarriage, I found that one very hard because I thought, well, I don't know if I can stay pregnant.
Yes, that's it, isn't it? They're not medical professionals, they don't know.
No.
They are meaning well, aren't they? But
yeah. Some people say, you know, it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Which that one's quite hard because it was. As in, it was wanted. Did be, and it did be. It did exist. Yeah. It was there. It was still our baby. Yeah. So it wasn't just something that wasn't meant to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. Lots of things. Some people say, oh, at least it was early. You know, but like you said before about a pregnancy test, the minute you see that positive line on a pregnancy test, you just plan your entire life, your baby's life, you know, you think about everything.
Yeah. I always try to describe it to a friend how when I was single for a very long time, and then I decided, and it was by choice, by the way, but I decided, okay, I'll let someone set me up on a blind date. So I was so nervous going on that blind date because I'd like to say I was 17. I wasn't, I was in my late 20s. But I was so nervous because I was putting everything on this date. What if we connected? What if we fell in love? And what if we moved in together? What if we got married and had children and got a house? And oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And then I got there and it wasn't a great date. And but what I mean is you put everything in it. You're planning your life because you know that this could change your life forever. Whereas a pregnancy, you kind of know for sure it's going to change your life forever. As much as you think it won't, it does.
Whether that pregnancy is successful or not, it's going to change your life forever.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because every experience changes you slightly, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've said it before, but thank you so much for being so open. It's really nice to have someone being open about it. Like you say, 1 in 4, a lot of ladies have gone through it, and men, you know, men have lost their children as well. And I think I've each to their own. I'm more of a talker. I think when someone's passed away or I've been going through a tough time, I like to talk to people about it. Whereas my partner's the opposite. He just sits in quietness and takes it in and thinks about it, and you know, and that's fine, and everyone's each their own. But I think if you can't talk about it, then just talk to, you know, maybe, I don't know, speak to a stranger about it. So sometimes you can talk to strangers about everything, can't you? You know,
oh, absolutely.
They're not part of your life. You're never going to see them again.
The Instagram baby loss community is amazing.
Because, is there one on there?
There is so many people on Instagram that have, there's some big accounts that talk about baby loss openly, and pregnancy after loss and trying to conceive after loss. And there's some fabulous accounts.
Can you think of one just to name now in case anyone's listening?
So the Worst Girl Gang Ever, that's an amazing account to listen to if you are trying to conceive, or if you suffered any kind of baby loss. They're a great one. I'll see if I can find the handle for you.
Yeah, do that, and then I can always add them to my description of the podcast and on the YouTube
absolutely
channel.
Yeah,
brilliant. So let's move on to happier stories now. And this babby that's coming along. So how has Scarlett reacted to the news of her new baby brother or sister? Is she excited or slightly nervous about it, or is she like Fionn at that age, didn't know what was going on anyway?
She hasn't got a clue.
No,
she has not got a clue. So the other day she was lying with her head on my belly, and the baby kicked her in the head, and she turned around and gave me a death stare, and I was like, oh, it wasn't me. So yeah, she has no idea what's going on. I think it's going to be a bit of a shock to the system, but she's very loving, and she loves her dolls. She likes to put her dolls and her teddies to bed at night, and she's great with the dogs and things like that. So I think she'll be fine with them.
That's what I did, because Fionn at the time, she wasn't even 2 when I got pregnant, but someone said get her a dolly. So on her second birthday, I asked people to get her like prams and dollies. And we were trying to get her used to having a baby in the dummy in the bottle and things like that. But honestly, Jem, I mean, how old will Scarlett be when Babby's here?
She will turn 2 weeks. She'll turn 2 a couple of weeks before the baby's due.
Yeah, so there's 2 years, 3 months with Fionn. Honestly, the Moses basket was in the living room, and I was so nervous about leaving Fionn in the room with her if I went to the toilet or a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd come back and she hadn't even bothered. I don't even think she knew there was a baby in the Moses basket most of the time. She just wasn't bothered at all.
Yeah.
I think it's more now, Jem, now that Ronnie is 8 months old and she's sitting up and trying to crawl and she's grabbing at Fionn's crisps out of her hand, and she knows she's got a little sister now. Wow. It is.
Yeah.
So, I don't think I've asked you on my list, actually. Do you know if you're having a girl or a boy, or are you having it?
We're having another girl.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Mums to girls. God help us when they're teenagers, honestly.
I know.
So how has this pregnancy journey been so far? Is it similar to your pregnancy with Scarlett, or have you had a different experience completely?
It's very similar to my pregnancy with Scarlett. The only difference is I'm actually feeling much better in this pregnancy. With Scarlett, I'd had some quite major surgery on my knee a few months before I fell pregnant. So I was on crutches till I was about 5 or 6 months pregnant with her. So with this one,
carrying that weight as well.
I know. And so I feel a lot more active with this one. Although I'm a lot more tired, but I think that comes from having a toddler.
Yeah, you'd be tired if you weren't pregnant. I'm always exhausted.
So yeah, working full time, having a toddler, 3 dogs, a house that we're renovating as well. So
you got room for everybody.
Yeah.
Dogs about. Like have I'd like to point out they're not even small dogs, are they? They're not like chihuahuas, are they?
No.
They're bloody great big dogs. Madhouse. It's such a madhouse.
It is a madhouse. And we're just adding to it. I don't know what we're doing.
Just know what? You wing it. You're just winging it every day, aren't you? Hoping for the best. So how have you found the prenatal care during this pregnancy compared to your first pregnancy? Obviously, we just talked about the father's not been able to go to scans, but he was able to come to the 20-week one.
Yeah. So my booking in appointment was done over the phone, but then as soon as I finished the phone call, I had to still go to see the midwife to have my bloods taken and be weighed and things like that. So that was a bit strange for me to think, why bother doing it on the phone if you still want me to go anyway?
Yeah.
And any midwife appointments, sort of community midwife appointments, you have to wait in your car and they phone you to be able to go in.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think, like I said about the 12-week scan, so I had to do that alone. The 20-week scan, so this is unusual. So Alan had to have a COVID test an hour before the scan. I didn't. So if his test had come positive, they wouldn't have allowed him in, but they still would have allowed me in.
Right. I'm going to get on my high horse now, because I have also had a baby during a pandemic now.
Yeah.
And because I had so many complications, I felt like I was in a hospital appointment somewhere around North Wales every other week. It was really bad. And I had to do it all alone. I never understood that logic.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, you're not testing me for anything. I live with my partner. I share a bed with my partner. Why can't he just come and be with me? It
doesn't make sense, does it?
But they were all so apologetic. It wasn't their fault. It's the rules they're following. You know, it's just so sad. So what is your birth plan? And our partner's allowed to, so a partner's allowed to the birth now. So what I mean is, do you know if you're having a cesarean, or, you know, you're going to try and go naturally?
Yeah, so I have also got an anterior placenta, which was found to be very low on my 20-week scan.
Yeah.
So I've got another scan in a couple of weeks' time to see if that's moved up.
Yeah.
If it moves, all is good. We can go ahead with a natural birth. If not, then it'll be a C-section, a planned C-section, which again, to be honest, I'm not bothered about. Either way, it doesn't bother me.
What goes in must come out.
Exactly. Exactly. My only concerns with having a C-section would be, like, how do you lift a toddler after recovering from a C-section? Because I didn't have one the last time, and I didn't have a toddler. No. That's the only thing that I've got slight reservations about.
I think with mine, I was in hospital for 8 days in total. I think Ronnie was 6 days old when I came home, and I hadn't seen Fionn for nearly 10 days by that point, and I was so upset because after 10 days she was starting to not really bother talking to me on the phone, you know how kids do. Yeah. And I was so upset, but I'd healed a lot in hospital. That was one of the things, you know, I'd gone through the baby blues bit in there and everything. And I came through the door and she ran up to me and I picked her up because I didn't care. I really didn't care. But at the same time, because of what you were saying, the placenta was so low, and I'd had some bleeding, I stopped picking her up from about 22 weeks pregnancy. Right. So she was kind of knowing that I didn't do that. So I think once I'd had Ronnie, it wasn't a given. I'd sit down and put her on my knee instead, just try and do things. Yeah. I think because I picked her up that time, I ended up going back into hospital 2 weeks later, not to scare you, but I had a hernia in my belly button that had become infected, and I had like a blood clot thing as well, where the C-section was. And I think they kind of said, you know, you shouldn't have done that, because I think you just, and to be honest, it's still there now. I've always got to have it in the belly button. Yeah. So I wouldn't recommend it, but at the time I needed the hug. So maybe I
you didn't. I bet you didn't even think about it. It was just instinct.
Yeah, of course. You just want to hug your little kid, don't you? You haven't seen him for ages. So just be careful. I say, but sit down and get them to sit on you. It's just the easiest way.
That's it. So, but we'll have to just wait and see what happens at this next scan and see what goes along. I would love a water birth. I really wanted a water birth with Scarlett. Yeah, but that didn't happen with her. She ended up being back to back, and so her labor was 29 and a half hours and contractions for every 3 minutes from the start. Oh my
god, this is why I'm kind of glad I had a C-section in the end.
But you know, so I wasn't coping without like painkillers and things like that. So at that point I was like, sod the water birth, just make the pain stop.
Right, there's you walking in with your basket and candles and little like lavender oils and stuff, and you're like, just give me the drugs. We've all been there.
Yeah.
So due to the pandemic, what has been your worries during this pregnancy? So I would say, obviously you're 30 weeks now, you're in the last 100-meter sprint now, aren't you?
Yeah.
But what's your worries about next part now, the last the third trimester and giving birth in hospital and things?
So my worries are, obviously there is the new variants of COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned that potentially they could change the restrictions in hospitals.
Yeah.
I work in a hospital at the moment, and they've changed visitor restrictions. So I am concerned that maybe they will do that for birth partners. I mean, like I say, there's nothing you can do.
No.
You know, there's no choice in it, but I really hope that he can be there for the whole labour.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard so many stories of people who have ended up giving birth without their partners because it's happened quicker than they were expecting.
I think, like I said, 8 days I was in hospital. I saw Phil for 1.5 hours, and that was when he waited in the car park. I could see him out the window, and they said, right, you're going in now. So I said, right, come in. He was then given clothes to wear, the scrubs. He was told to sit outside the theatre room while I got prepped up. That took a long time. Then they brought him through. He stood there while I had the C-section. And then I had trapped wind and shakes and things. So he had the skin to skin with the baby in the recovery room, wherever it is. And because I was taking so long, he actually got quite a while with Ronnie. We had a bit of a chat, and they were making sure I was okay. And then he was told to go home. So I think it was about an hour and 15, hour and a half. And then I didn't see him then for 7 days. And then he dropped some things off, and I managed to crawl myself to the end of the hallway. He had to drop it at the door, and a member of staff got it and gave it me because I was there for a long time. And we just waved at each other through the window. My advice is just, and I've said this on a blog as well, just prepare yourself. I'm not to be negative, but I kind of knew I was going to have problems because I had such a bad time with Vion. I took an iPad. I downloaded some programs, and I took food, snacks, like sweets and things like that are going to make me feel good. I took a book. I took some like squash, and I literally took like I was going on holiday for a week. But it was just helpful because I needed it. I needed that distraction. Just prepare for everything. Take an iPad.
I just can't believe that he missed out on the whole first week of Ronnie's life because...
Oh, well, she was in special care for 3 days. So he could go and visit, and then I could go and visit, but not together. So, yeah.
What difference does that make?
It was a crazy time, and I'm hoping things will ease as time goes on. But then you see people in the football stadiums at the minute for Euros, and you see people hugging each other, and you're just like, what is going on? Can't go and see my friend's dad in hospital who's poorly, but I can go to watch a football match. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, Jamie. It'll all be sorted. But what I'm saying is, it wasn't nice. But I think because it was really in the thick of it when I was going into it, I just said, you're not going to be there, are you? And he's like, I don't think I'm going to be there. I said, well, if you can just be there just for when the baby comes out, I'd be grateful.
Yeah.
So I think I was just more grateful he was there for that. Because there was talk, like you said, of some men not even being there. And I thought, I can't do that on my own. No way. And to be honest, if I hadn't told him to sit in the car park for hours before, it was that quick. They said, right, we can fit you in now. Come on, let's go. He probably would have missed it.
He would have missed it.
Yeah. It's so sad, honestly. I feel so sorry for the dads. But, it is what it is. It's time of the times. And this is it. That's what I was saying. Did you plan the pregnancy? Because for me, I didn't know I was going to have to bring a baby into a pandemic. I was pregnant before then. So you knew it was just going to be happening. So in a way, you kind of you're half expecting it, and you're half expecting the unexpected, because we just don't know where this is going, do we?
Yeah. And by this point, we also all thought everything would be over by now, didn't we?
Yeah.
So
6 weeks, I thought.
Yeah. So it is. It's hard. You can't put your life on hold, though. That's what I'm thinking.
No, we still need babies in this world.
Exactly. And I'm 36, so I'm not, at the young end of the scale. No. So I'm classed as a geriatric mother. So, I didn't want to leave it much 39. Longer.
I just put a lot of cream on.
It's mad though, isn't it? 36 and you're classed as geriatric. But
yeah, my mum was a grandmother by the time she was 39.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am very geriatric.
Yeah.
So one question, which is kind of a hot topic at the minute, and I came up with this question because another person I know who's pregnant asked on Instagram, would you, and I was like, oh, I don't know. Now I'm not pregnant. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you had the COVID vaccination? A friend of mine currently in a third trimester that is still on the fence about having hers done at the moment. She's worried because where we live, the Delta variant is really starting to creep up now. So she's like, I don't know what to do for the best. With me, I think because it was so strict, the lockdown, I didn't feel any risk because I wasn't going anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
But obviously things are happening now. So have you had yours done?
So I haven't had my vaccine. I've decided to wait until the baby's born.
Yeah.
I do intend to breastfeed if I can.
Yeah.
And I will have the vaccine when I'm breastfeeding, because I feel like there's been a lot more research into having the vaccine and breastfeeding rather than having the vaccine and pregnancy. And I know there has been a lot of research into having the vaccine and pregnancy, but I think each individual person's got to weigh up their own personal risk. So I work in, like I said, I work in a hospital where the rest of my co-workers have all had both vaccines. So I'm not patient facing, and we wear a lot of PPE. So my feeling towards that is that I'm in a much lower risk environment than if I was working in a shop or in a school or somewhere where there is lots of other people coming and going who you don't know where they've been. That sounds awful, but you don't know what their thoughts and feelings are on wearing masks. And obviously lots of people are exempt from wearing masks, and lots of people don't wear them when they're not exempt from wearing them. So like I said, I feel like personally my risk is lower where I'm working. So that's why I've decided not to have the vaccine for now, and just like, I think I got my letter at the beginning of this week, so I'm really only postponing it another 10 weeks or so.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Because I think when I got pregnant, they were like, right, you can have a flu jab. I was like, okay, fine. And I literally had the flu jab without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
But the flu jab's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking about it. I don't know. My head was all over the place last year with being pregnant because of a lot of different things. And I don't know if I would have done. But then I wouldn't have judged anyone that did either. It was got to be your choice.
I think because of when the vaccines first came out, the initial advice was, do not have if you're pregnant, do not have if you're breastfeeding, do not have if you're trying to conceive.
Yeah.
So that still sort of sticks in your mind. So that was only around Christmas time. Then when they said pregnant women can have the vaccine, and then about a week or so later, they decided that you could have the vaccine, but only certain brands, only certain manufacturers and things. Again, that sticks in your head, and you think, well, how do you know in a few weeks' time if you're not going to say, oh, we're going to change it again?
Yeah. I mean, mothers now, and everyone will agree with this, when you become a mother, you've peed on that stick, you're really happy, then the anxiety kicks in. It never goes away until you give birth. And then you've just got a lifetime of anxiety when you've got children.
Yeah.
But I said to Phil, oh, I'll have to get the decaf coffee in now. He goes, why? What happens if you drink caffeine? I'm like, I don't know, but everyone keeps saying it's really, really bad for the baby. Maybe it's the heart pressure. Oh, okay. And it's like, no, I can't have seafood. I've got this, something. I mean, I'm a coffee hot. I mean, I'm already on my 6th cup today, and it's 20 to 12. I'm terrible. I had cold turkey and everything, but I didn't drink caffeine because it might harm the baby. That's caffeine. Yeah. And it was like the slightest chance that it might have something, bad effect on my baby.
Yeah.
And then you're saying, can you go and get a vaccine that we've just put together in the last, I don't know. I just don't know. I didn't go in a jacuzzi. There were silly little things I didn't do because you don't want to take the risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel sorry for it because obviously it wasn't around when I was pregnant. I just don't know. I was just wondering what your thoughts were because...
It is like, if I'd had my first vaccine before I knew I was pregnant, then I probably would have carried on and had the second one.
Yeah.
But because now I've been given the option now to have it, and it's so close to me having the baby, I am at the point where I just think I'll just wait. It's
not going anywhere, is it? We've got it for life now. So just get it done when you've had the baby, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, it's when you've lost babies before, you go into overdrive with trying to protect I mean, you do that when you're pregnant anyway.
Yeah, but I can imagine it's a million times.
Yeah.
More.
So me and Alan discussed it, and even we discussed it again recently. We made the decision that I wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
And then we just discussed it again last week, I think, when this Delta variant started to become a bit more apparent. And again, we decided it's still only a matter of weeks. We'll just, hopefully, he's had his first vaccine. He's just waiting on his second one now. So hopefully it'll be a case of herd immunity. The majority of people I'm around have all had the majority of the vaccines.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Blimey. So, because this went, I wrote these questions before I knew about the baby losses and everything, but so many people are missing out on really happy milestones because of all the restrictions at the moment. Do you have any advice on people at the minute who may be going through baby loss during this time, where there's like lockdown, restrictions? There might not be people support as in offices open, but I'm sure there's things online and things like that. And anyone that's pregnant, what's your advice to anyone kind of going through what you've gone through in the last 12 months?
So, as I said before, there's loads of different charities and Instagram pages. Tommy's is a really good,
Tommy's is great.
Really good for baby loss. I think there's one called Sands as well.
What's that? SANDS?
Yeah, and Kicks Count is another good one for pregnancy after loss. So I would just say, if you want to talk about it, then talk about it. After my first miscarriage, it took me a long time before I could actually say it out loud. A long time. But I do feel that it's been easier to deal with since talking about it. And it is hard sometimes because people will go, oh, is this your second baby, or is this your first pregnancy? And you're like, well, it's my fifth pregnancy, but I don't have 4 other children at home.
I always find that because one that's putting that, because people are just making a light comment. People say, hi, are you all right? And I go, yeah, good, thanks, and you carry on walking. If I had turned around and gone, no, actually, I'm having a really dreadful day, they'd go, oh, I didn't really mean to ask you. I was just being polite. You don't know
polite,
who to be completely honest with and who to pass the time with day with, do you? It's a tricky one. Really.
Quite often I'll just say, oh, I've got a little girl. And then I don't have to explain how many pregnancies and how many babies we've lost and things like that. So
maybe when you get to know someone, then you open up more and you go, oh, actually, do you know what? I have had more pregnancies. And speak to some, maybe just gain someone's trust before you open up completely to them. It's true, it is hard, because people will go, oh, how are you doing? And I'll go, well, actually, and you can see that their face is going, all right, because we're in Asda grocery aisle or something, and they're just passing me, and I'm like, what are you asking me? I'm telling you. Oh, well, thank you ever so much for being so open and honest. I really appreciate it. I really do. And I'm just so grateful. I've had so many lovely guests being so open. And, I know people, because I always think, oh, is anyone actually listening to these? But then I'll get people going, oh, yeah, no, I listen to you when I'm working or I'm walking the dogs. And they'll say, it's really nice listening to other people's stories. So thank you ever so much, Jem. And all the best for the upcoming baby. Fingers crossed. Do you want this academic year baby, or do you want it in September? What's easiest? I don't know what childcare wise. I think it's September, isn't it? Easy for you.
Well, I think I would prefer the baby to come in August, because then Scarlett and the baby will be 2 school years apart.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
They're only going to be 2 years apart in age, whereas if the baby's born in September, they'll be 3 school years apart.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we go.
I had that, because Fion's June and Ronnie was October, and like I said, I was in hospital in the August because of the bleeding, and my mum said, don't you have this baby in August? I said, that'd be great. They'll be 2 years apart at school, like me and my sister were. But yes, and she was like, oh, but I don't know. I think if they were September, when they're 18, they'll really love you for it, because they'll be the eldest.
Because they'll be the eldest in the year. Yeah, that's the only year, really, isn't it? When it's important.
Oh, well, no, I don't know. As you get older, my friend's November and I'm February, and every year I say to her, oh, you're 40 before I am. And she's like, oh, shut up. Oh, thank you ever so much. And thank you everyone for listening. Gem is on Instagram. Her name is currently 3 Dogs and a Baby, but that will be changing in about 10 weeks time to, we don't know yet. She'll do a great grand reveal, I'm sure. By all means, you know, you can message myself if you've got questions for Gem, or Gem, are you happy for people to message you?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So please do. You're never alone, and there is always someone who has had a very similar experience to yourself who is willing to open up and chat. So if you want to, like Jen was saying about these charities, please reach out to them and speak to them also. All the best, everybody, and thanks very much for listening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Jen.